Thank you for sitting down with us. Would you please tell us your name and your profession?
My name is Ari Freidman. I work for Meridian Capital Group as a commercial mortgage broker in New York City.
Amazing. Would you share what you see as being personally valuable about participating in the Mentors Mission that you were just on in Israel, and perhaps share a story or an anecdote illustrating this point?
The story, there were many stories that happened while I was there, but personally I feel as growing up in a frum household, which I have a lot of Karsa Taif, Kadosh Baruch Hu, and my parents, but we have to have the recognition that there are many who did not have that opportunity, and there are many people who grew up near large metropolitan centers with many frum Jews who live in those centers, yet they don't even know that the frum Orthodox world exists, or if they do, they have a predisposition of who they are and what they are. The boys come to have a certain want to learn more about Yiddishkeit, whether it's on their own through a campus rabbi, and therefore they direct them towards Or Sameach at a certain point in time. One of the programs that Or Sameach offers is the JLE program, which the Mentors Mission is part of, and Rabbi Schiller has said that this is a crucial part to the program because the boys see that a balabas who's out there in the working world can also have his Yiddishkeit as well as pursue a career as well. One of the boys actually mentioned that he thought this trip would be all prayers and rabbis, and I see that it's not. And the truth is that from our standpoint, from where we're coming from, do we see that the boys really want to move towards Yiddishkeit? And the answer is that it's a huge impact on myself and the other mentors, as they will tell you, because the boys are so, they want to learn about Yiddishkeit, and when they're sitting and learning, they're leaning forward and they want to hear what you have to say, and they ask questions and follow-ups. And one of the stories that really touched me was we were sitting by breakfast one morning with four of the boys in the hotel, and we were talking about taking the mundane and making it holy, which is a huge element in Yiddishkeit. So after the conversation, one of the boys stops and he thinks for a second, and he looks at me and he says, "What blessing do I make on this food?" I said, "That's a hadama," and we said it together, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam borei pri ha'adama. And it made a huge impact on me because it was somebody, we did not tell him to make a bracha, but it was a conversation where he sat there and he understood where we were going with it, and it was something that he wanted to be part of, and it was very touching. That's
amazing. And so you started to touch a little bit on what impact your relationship with your mentee had. Is there another impactful story or moment that you could share about what it meant for you to be a mentor to one of these boys, or what you see your mentorship had impacted them?
Well, there were two things that come to mind, two thoughts that come to mind. One was one of the boys I spent time with last year in the program. I believe when he first came to the program, some of the other mentees came over to me and mentioned that at the time he was not going out with a Jewish girl at the time. When I spoke to the boy and followed up with him around Pesach time, he was learning in a yeshiva locally here in the United States. So that was an amazing story. To even be a minute part of that, to change somebody's life is a tremendous chus and an opportunity. A story that happened this year with one of the boys that I was learning with, we were learning Gemara, and sometimes the conversation goes elsewhere from the limud that we were learning, and at the end he just stops and he thoughts, and it was a hashkafic conversation. He said, "You know what? I never thought of that." And it was a conversation about HaKadosh Baruch Hu and how we can see the world. He said, "I never thought of that." And every time I talked to him afterwards, he brought it up, and I thought it may have helped somewhat, and hopefully leading him in the right direction wherever that ends up.
Amazing. And what would you tell someone who was thinking about joining a Mentors Mission, who's on the fence, who might have heard about the Mentors Missions, but they're thinking about joining the next mission. They're not sure if it's for them. What would you say to somebody who's on the fence about it?
It's a good question. I was in the same position. Initially, a friend of mine approached me several years ago, told me about it, said he thought it would be something I would enjoy. And there was follow-up by program for me to join. And I finally took the step last year to join. And the trip made a tremendous impact on me. And as any mentor will tell you, that we end up becoming the mentees because we learn a lot. Your Talmidim teach you more than what you learn. So any mentor that you will ask will say that it's made a tremendous impact on them. And it's hard to describe in words simply because there's a certain feeling, there's a certain nuance that you get when you go through the program. And little by little you see people who want to learn more about Yiddishkeit and have a difficult time because they're up against society, they're in colleges, they have their families, their parents who may not want them to go in this direction. And if we could be a little part of it, that's going to help us grow tremendously, and it's made such a tremendous impact on me that I've come back another year, and I'm looking forward to joining many more missions.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sitting down and giving us your time and telling us a little bit about your experience.
Thank you very much.